Hi, welcome back to Lamppost Builds. Today in the What Now workshop, I'm starting a new project, one that's sort of overdue. So what I have here are the doors that I took off of my dartboard cabinet. And as you can see, they're not straight anymore. They're kind of warped. There's a huge bow in the door itself. But they lasted for quite a long time. I would say probably about 20 years. Had I taken better care of them, or maybe not let the sun get at them, they probably would have lasted a lot longer. But I kind of want to make my new doors similar to this. The only difference is I'm using a different type of material. So what I've got is I bought a piece of maple, a 2x4 sheet of 3/4 maple, and what I've done is I've already cut out my two pieces and I've labeled them. So this will be the hinge side, this is going to be the outside, and then this will be the bottom. Usually that's what you want to do first, is label how you want things to go, so that way like for example, this edge that's pretty rough from cutting with a skill saw, this is going to get routed off anyway. There's going to be a design of some kind on here, so I'm not worried about that. So that's kind of why I made this the outside and I made this the bottom, because this is the factory edge and the hinge side is the factory edge. And since I made a cut on the inside, I'm going to put both of these pieces together. I'll clamp them. They're not exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is I'll wind up running this through a sander to make them the same, and then split them, make my pattern, take my jigsaw and cut that pattern, do the same thing with this one, put them back together, sand them, and then router them. So what I've done so far with these is I have gone ahead and marked out my cuts for my pattern. Basically used my other doors to kind of help me decide how I wanted to make this. I didn't want it to be exactly the same where it came up really, really high, and I'll kind of show you the difference here. But what I did was I clamped them together, and this will be the outside of this one, and you can see that's what they're going to look like. Actually, I didn't want to go as high as the other ones. I did that in the beginning, but kind of didn't really like it. And if I turn these sideways, you'll be able to see quite the difference in it. So this was the other one, and you can see that quite a difference. Now I did make this part right here the same. So this is at the top of my cabinet coming around, and then what I did was, once I got to this point, I basically just slid this over to line up like that. And that's how I decided to make this. Again, you can do what you want. I thought this was really cool the first time I did it, with the really tall section of door. And the only reason why I did it was because I needed the magnet to be above this point right here, which is where the top of the cabinet is, because the magnets actually mount to the top of the cabinet, not on the inside of the cabinet. I wanted to make sure I had enough room, and again, if I line this up with the new door, I do still have enough room to mount that magnet right there, and it will still serve its purpose. What I'm going to do now is, like I said before, I mounted these together, basically just flipped them. Again, they're still marked, so I know which one's which. I took my jigsaw and I cut the pattern out. Now what I'm going to do is individually take them apart, and I'm going to router around the outside edge on both of these. So I've routered the edges all the way around on both pieces. I got a nice straight line and a rounded corner going around the entire thing. It actually looks pretty good. Now the next step is I need to flip these doors over and I need to router out where the hinges are gonna go. And what I'm gonna do for that is I'm gonna take one of my old doors, one of the ones that I took off, and set it so this matches that. And what I'll do is I'll set it right there, and I'm gonna make marks where I need those hinges to be, and I'm gonna measure in and then router that part out. So that way I get my hinges the exact same, because this point here, where my finger's at, and this point right here should be the exact same. I took a knife and then a razor knife, and then cut the layer of plywood. You know, again, it's really, really thin. Other one though, I actually used a Dremel. So I'm gonna sand off, you know, any pencil marks that are on here, any imperfections. Again, I'm just gonna do a light sanding. It's not going to take off the finish or anything like that. Let's get our vacuum turned on. Okay, so that's a nice looking piece of wood right there. Nice and smooth, lots of grain. I'm gonna do the same thing with the other door. I'm gonna set this one aside. Basically what I wanted to do was I wanted to take my labelings off where I had my hinges and top and bottom. Now that I already know that this is my top, I already know that this is my hinge side, and I pretty much know that this is the bottom. So now it's time we can take those markings off, put a final sand on them, get our other stuff ready, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing with the other door. Okay, now that that's done. So again, nice smooth surface. Now I have both of my doors. They've been sanded. And we are almost there. So one thing that I forgot to mention is that I need to install the dart holders, which are basically these little blocks that I made. I went ahead and sanded the old stain off. I've measured where I want them to go, and I've made marks. So now what I need to do is I need to drill a couple holes to attach these before I start staining this piece. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. And I've got these where I want them to be, and I'm basically just gonna drill a small pilot hole. Okay, so I don't want to drill these pilot holes too deep, because otherwise I'll go through the other side, and we definitely don't want that. Basically what we want is we just want enough to where the screw will go in without splitting the wood. I'm going to attach this. I'm going to do the exact same thing for this one. Make sure that's square. All right. So now, again, we didn't drill through the back. Now we have our doors and our dart holders. I went ahead and drilled our holes for our handles, and this is what our handles look like right here. We've got our handles on, we've got our dart holders on. Really the only thing left to do now is we're gonna stain this, and I also have to choose the right color stain. I don't know if I want to, do I want to make it a dark color stain? Do I want to make it a light color stain? It really depends on the type of wood you're using. If you're using oak, an oak color stain or a darker walnut type color stain works really good. Pine, on the other hand, you want to use either a pine type stain or a lighter color stain. So with maple, I'm not quite sure, but the good news is that I actually have an extra piece right here that I can take a corner of, and I can test a couple of the colors that I have to see what I like best. I did some stain samples on the extra piece of maple that I have. And what I have right here is golden oak, which is a pretty light colored stain. And then I've got early American, and then I've got dark walnut. Now, dark walnut and early American are pretty close. Dark walnut is actually a little bit darker. The thing is that I have more early American colored stain, and that's what I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using the early American for these dartboard cabinet doors. So I'm going to go ahead and coat this. Whoops, looks like I've already started by accident. But I'm going to go ahead and start coating these, and we're going to go from there and see where we're at. If I need to make it darker, I can make it darker. But I'm going to coat both of these and let's see what it looks like. I have both of these doors coated. Actually, I just did this side, but the other side is already dry. So I think they look pretty good. I'm happy with it. So I'm gonna let these dry. So I've already coated these with our clear coat. You can see that they're nice and shiny. I'll flip these over. So yeah, I think they turned out pretty good. You can actually see the shine in the light. So now the next thing I need to do is I got to put my hinges on, got to put my magnet on, and install them. So we are about done with this project. I got the hinges put on last night. The only thing I have left to do is actually attach it. Now I put the magnet stops on where they need to be, and as you can see, they're lined up just above where the cabinet is. So if you drew a straight line, that's right where that's at. I'm gonna leave these on because once I get the doors installed where they go on the cabinet, then I'll line these up and then screw these to the top of the cabinet. Okay, so here's our dartboard cabinet doors installed. So again, I think they look really good. And you can see this is what I was talking about having my house painted, where I had the painter just go ahead and paint this side to match the body. So we are now ready to play darts again. I mean, we've always been ready, but it's nice to have doors on. So now I just have to get my darts put back up here. I've got my magnet up here with, I decided to keep the two originals, and I also decided to put two magnets down here, maybe help keep the doors from warping by having a magnet at the top and the bottom. So it just clicks and clicks, and this project is done. So that is how you build dartboard cabinet doors from scratch. I appreciate you watching this video. It was actually kind of fun to do. Really didn't do anything different, but we still got the project done. Looks great, it's functional, I'm happy with it. Hopefully you enjoyed watching. So as always, thank you for watching my channel Lamppost Build. If you liked the video, make sure you hit like, hit subscribe. If you want to see something specific, please mention it in the comments. I would love to hear from you if you're watching this channel. So as always, thank you for watching my channel. See you next time in the What Now Workshop.